right, that being said, let's get into our top 5 starting pitchers. Now, it is difficult every day as we're doing these rankings because they are, yes, because it's our projections for 2024. And so we've had each of us something that was a spicy take, some of us more than others, and I'll be proud to admit I've maybe brought something that was some surprises. But today I don't think I'm going to have any major surprises. I'm
curious to see where everybody's 5 is, though, because I think we probably are going to agree on 4. And then once you get outside, like, the top 4, there's, like, honestly, Tyler and I were talking about it before the show. There's, like, 7 guys you can all make a case for being that guy this year.
Yeah, like we said, Taijuan Walker.
Taijuan Walker, Christopher Sanchez.
My number 5,
Taijuan Walker. You're kicking it off?
He's only 5?
He's only number 5. He could be higher.
Such a slight. That's not even right.
Mean. Poor Taijuan. All right, my number 5, starting off for 2024 projections. Again, this is where I think they're going to perform in terms of the ladder of starting pitchers in 2024. I'm starting things off with Zack Gallen. Last year was a major step for Zack in his Last year was a major step for Zack in his progression as a bona fide ace.
The first comment, Mickey Durkin.
Oh, wow.
Please do not
Mickey.
put Zack Gallen on
Mickey.
the list. It was like as right as you started talking.
Thanks, Mickey.
That was great timing,
right on time, Mickey. Well, yes. Okay, so last year it is 210 innings pitched. He finished with a 3.47 ERA, 111 WHIP. 220 strikeouts. Zack Gallen, as much as we hate to admit it, guys, he is on the rise. He is someone that has been in the conversation of being an NL, Cy Young Award winner. He definitely has improved and taken strides for Arizona. And as much as you don't want him on the list, Mickey or anybody else, unfortunately, I do think the progression he's made continues into 2024. Zack Gallen.
Yeah, Zack Gallen, I think, is one of those 7 guys that you could kind of make the case for. He's really good. Me personally, he's not my cup of tea. And I said this to Tyler when we were briefly debating him. I was like, he's a guy, right or wrong, I don't feel as though you don't have a chance against. Like when you go into a game against Gallen, I'm like, all right, you got like a fighter's chance here. But he's a tremendous pitcher. So this number 5 one was really hard. Gallen I considered, a bunch of guys I considered, but I'm going to go a little bit out on the limb here. And I think Pablo Lopez I'm going to go with at number 5. He had a 3.3 ERA last year. His WHIP was a 1.1. Like to see that lowered a little bit. Just about 10 strikeouts per 9 inning. Only throws 2.5 walks per 9. 200 plus innings. He can go 200 innings. I think he was at like 185 last year. He's going to be that back of the baseball card guy. He's going to be a 3.5 ERA. He kind of had his emergence last year. I think he's going to keep it going in Minnesota this year. So I'm going to go Pablo Lopez, number 5.
Yeah, this was really difficult to pick 5.
Struggled.
Are you going Scooball, your man?
No, I'm not.
I really struggled.
I got a couple of dollars.
You got Kirby, you're big on?
I got a couple of dollars dabbled on a whole bunch of different guys to win the AL Cy Young Award, and none of those guys are the guy that I'm putting at number 5. So just to give you an idea, Pablo Lopez, $2 bucks, Tariq Skubal, $2 bucks, George Kirby, $2 bucks. Well, it's going to be really hard for him to win the AL Cy Young in the National League.
AL. Okay.
But the guy that I ended up settling on is a guy who's made 95 starts over the last 3 seasons. It's Kevin Gausman. 185 innings pitched last year, led the American League with 237 strikeouts. The WHIP's been pretty consistently right around that 1-1 mark each of the last 3 seasons. A top 10 finish in the Cy Young each of the last 3 seasons as well. A season ago, he led the league in strikeouts per walk at 7.3. His walks rose a little bit last year. He went from a 1.4 in 2022 back to kind of his average, which is 2.5 across his career. He was at 2.7 last year. I think you're going to start to see Gausman slow down just a little bit, but he was a first-time All-Star last year, posting a 3.1 ERA. This guy is a type of guy. My thing with this list is you've got to be the type of guy who can get me close to 200 innings, even in a hyper-focused, bullpen, save innings, analytics, arm versus, side type of league. You got to be a guy who can get me close to 200 innings.
That's why
to be
Nola
in this
was
list.
so coveted on the free agent market.
Correct. And for me, Gausman is the type of guy who's been super consistent each of the last 3 seasons. His final year in San Francisco and the last 2 years in Toronto. I really like what this guy does. He strikes out over 200 just about every year. Kevin Gausman at number 5 for me.
I used to bet overs when he was pitching in his early days. like regularly, because he struggled for his first couple years in the league, and I used to bet his overs, and he's really turned the corner and been one of those guys.
Yeah, and my number 4 is a guy that's found a new home in Baltimore, coming off of 3 straight seasons of 200 or more strikeouts. It's Corbin Burns, and I'm not cueing the Let It Burn song because he went to the Orioles. Now, in his time with Milwaukee, had a career 3.26 ERA with the Brewers, which is top for Brewers history for starting pitchers, but also for him to have in the last season a 3.39 ERA, a 107 WHIP, and his 193 2/3 innings pitched, as mentioned, finished with his 3rd straight season of 200 or more strikeouts. We saw last year in July, he had a 1.85 ERA for the month of July, but then dropped off in the next 3 games, starting off in August. Gave up 5 runs or more in those 2 of those 3 games that he started. So Corbin Burns did have a little bit of a drop off in that part of the season, but I feel like with a new home, with a team that is absolutely a playoff or honestly a championship contender in the Orioles, I think what's most important about Corbin Burns, aside from his stats, is that renewed sense of excitement of being able to move from the Brewers to the Orioles, and that he's going to have the opportunity to lift them up and turn a corner as a team. So Corbin Burns, number 4 for me, and I considered putting him even higher, but you'll see why he's number 4 and not higher.
Yeah, I think you can make the case that he's higher. I also have him at number 4. You know, I think he's a guy, if you're betting AL Cy Young odds, he's going to be, you know, a little bit outside the front runner because of Gerrit Cole, but I think he's absolutely a guy that can win the award, especially going to a team that's kind of ready-made contenders in the Orioles. You know, that should carry him to the wins needed. And I think the rest of his numbers will speak for itself. You know, he's a 200 inning guy like Tyler was just talking about. He's a 200K guy. He has a sub 1.1 whip. His ERA is 3.3, which is beautiful. 32 games started last year. You know, low walk rates. This guy's an absolute stud. And it feels like, you know, he's been a sub 1 whip guy. Let's see, 2 of the last 4 years. And the other year, he was a 1.02 whip guy. So, you know, his walks are as low as 1.8 per 9, as high as 2.3. This guy's really not good at throwing strikes and getting people out. Corbin Burns is awesome, and you can certainly make the case that he's a top 3 pitcher easily. When we get to my number 3, I'll explain why I had him 4 and not 3 or even 2. But it's easy to make that case.
So I got to be that guy, huh?
Be that guy. Be that guy. Be that guy.
I got to be that guy to not only break your trend, but
Zack
to probably
Wheeler?
break a bunch of people in the chat's hearts. I'm going Zack Wheeler at number 4. And the reason is it's an age factor, and that's really the only thing. And yes, I understand that Zack Wheeler could be the type of guy that pitches well into his late 30s, 38, 39, and still throws well. This is not a slight at Zack Wheeler to put him at number 4 on this list. But the reason that I put him at number 4 on this list is for the 2 guys ahead of him have one definable trait that I think, or at least one definable trait that I think stands out above Zack Wheeler. But if there's a guy that I want taking the ball in the playoffs, there's not many guys, if any, that I would take over Zack Wheeler. But going into his 34th season, age 34th season, going into a contract year, I don't know what type of Zack Wheeler we're going to see moving forward. I have an idea of the type of Zack.
Splitter down, Tyler.
I have an idea of the Zack Wheeler we're going to see this year, but moving forward, I don't know what that type of Zack Wheeler is.
Randy just said he'll get hurt this year with that splitter. Don't say that, Randy.
I sure hope not. But model of consistency, 58 starts.
Oh, okay.
Huge difference. Huge difference.
Sorry, Randy.
58 starts over the last 2 seasons, 345 innings pitched, a 3.2 ERA. The difference being slightly higher whip than the next 2 guys that I'm about to put on the list, and slightly lower strikeout numbers than the next 2 guys that I'm going to put on my list. This is not a slight to say Zack Wheeler is the 4th best pitcher in baseball. I know you guys are going to have him higher, but heading into this year, we're talking about projections. It's another year older. I just think the 2 guys ahead of him are going to be slightly better.
Interesting. All right, well, my number 3, because again, I'm going with projections for 2024, the entire season. I'm going with Atlanta Braves Spencer Strider. Now, last year in 2023, dominant season, leading the league in strikeouts at 281, strikeout rate at 13.5 strikeouts per 9. His wins, 20. His winning percentage, 800. Only a 4th place finisher in the Cy Young voting ERA of 3.86, his FIP a 2.85. Spencer Strider has not gotten over the hump. Now, I can agree that the last 2 seasons for him, and what I wrote was, the last 2 seasons go from 202 strikeouts to 281 in 2023. His numbers have improved from year to year, but that postseason hurdle has continued to be the biggest defining moment for Spencer Strider and the Braves as a whole. And so when I'm looking at starting pitchers, when I'm looking at who's the best of the best, I need to go with the guy that's going to come up clutch down the stretch and help his team win games. And while I'm not putting it all on Spencer Strider that the Braves haven't been able to get past the Phillies, I can't put him ahead of the guy that's leading the Phillies. So Spencer Strider is my number 3 starting pitcher going into 2024.
I have Zack Wheeler number 3. I considered putting Corbin Burns ahead of him. The Wheeler Strider thing I really went back and forth on. His playoff success has me ahead of Burns, and probably should have edged him out over Strider as well. But Strider is significantly younger and put up some really gaudy K numbers. So I settled in. I felt comfortable putting Zack Wheeler 3rd. He's one of the best postseason pitchers of the last 25 years in Major League Baseball. And that's all that really matters. Like, you're as good as Zack Wheeler is in the regular season. That's fine. You've become a Cy Young pretty steady finalist here in Philadelphia. And then, you elevate your game in September when it matters the most. Zack Wheeler has been absolutely tremendous here. One of the Phillies' best all-time free agent signings. They got him for a deal. They bet on his future being exactly this, and they aced that decision. 200-inning guy, 200-plus strikeout guy, a sub-1.1 whip, that 3.5, 3.6 ERA. But most importantly, when it matters the most, Zack Wheeler steps the hell up and is, right there with Gerrit Cole as the best pitcher in baseball, in my opinion. The more I talk about this, the more I should have put him 2.
I'm like, your answer is giving number 2.
I know, but Spencer Strider's a freak.
I know.
And I don't think it's a discredit to Zack Wheeler to put him 3rd. Because the playoffs, I weighted that much on the scales of judging a player. When you step up when it matters the most, that's all that really matters. So Zack Wheeler easily could be 2. I don't think I could put him 1, but he's definitely a top 3 pitcher in baseball to me.
Yeah, I'm just going to flip 2 guys here on this list, and I'm going Spencer Strider at number 3. Just a 1/10 of a point. 0.1 ERA worse than Zack Wheeler over the last 2 seasons. Wheeler 3.26 to Spencer Strider's 3.36. Strider's whip is 1/100th of a point better. His 1.05 to Wheeler's 1.06. Really what it comes down to for me, it's the strikeout numbers, right, guys? Like 375 strikeouts over the course of 345 innings is elite, and that's what Zack Wheeler did. Spencer Strider struck out 483 over 318 innings pitched. That is a 13.7 strikeout rate per 9 innings pitched. That's bullpen stuff. That's closer type numbers where, like, if your closer comes in and strikes out 2 over an inning, it's like, oh my God, this guy's 9 strike.
The only guy that comes to mind with like 13 plus K per 9 rate is Chris Sale.
It's like Randy Johnson stuff.
Yeah, like Chris Sale's like one of the best
Martinez
in baseball.
Stuff.
Like that's up there, like historic wise.
So yes, I understand that despite the fact that Zack Wheeler threw 27 more innings, he only gave up 6 more earned runs. He gave up just 4 more home runs. The walk rate is in favor of Zack Wheeler as well, but the strikeout rate is just undeniable for me. Spencer Strider stuff is electric, and he wants to challenge you. He's going to throw a lot of fastballs because he can. And quite frankly, one of the things that I hate about this guy, but I admire as a baseball fan, is the simplicity at the way that he ramps it up. We talked about this during one of the watch parties when we were watching him pitch. It's effortless. It's like 98 with very little exertion. And it's why he can throw 98, 75, 80, 85 pitches in. Listen, do I like this guy as a Phillies fan? No. As a baseball fan, the guy's elite, and putting him at 3 is, I think, probably fair where he should be.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's get into our top 2 now, because my number 2, and hit that thumbs up button in the chat while you are tuning in and share your thoughts on who's the top 3 and what your orders are. My number 2 starting pitcher, because of his postseason numbers alone, let alone with the fact he's a guy all reliable, especially when you need him most, he will step up, which in my opinion makes you a top player in any position, especially as a starting pitcher. It is, of course, Philly's own Zack Wheeler. As you guys talked about the numbers in the regular season, are astonishing for even all of these guys in our top 3 or 4. But when you look at the postseason success of Zack Wheeler compared to someone like Spencer Strider, and I'm comparing 2022 and 2023 collectively. For both of those 2 seasons, Spencer Strider had a 5.4 ERA and a 1.47 WHIP. Zack Wheeler, a 2.42 ERA and a 0.73 sub-1 WHIP. In the innings pitched, you have obviously Zach went 63 and a third innings pitched in postseason. And because they didn't get far in the postseason, Spencer Strider, of course, 15 innings pitched. 68 strikeouts for Zack Wheeler to Spencer's 19. Obviously, the Phillies went further, but a big reason they went further, as I mentioned before, is it starts at the top. It starts with your ace. It starts with Zack Wheeler. And for as phenomenal as the numbers are in the regular season, I get it. Spencer Strider, younger. And I honestly, if we're doing an overall projection into 2025, 2026, it's a different conversation. But right now in 2024, for this year, for this team's makeup, it's still Zack Wheeler at that number 2 spot. Last year, as you guys already hit on, hitting with a 3.61 ERA, a 1.08 WHIP. Zack Wheeler is that guy, and I need someone that's going to step up when it matters most. I count on Zack Wheeler. He's not afraid of the big lights, the fans, anything else. He's going to come out and give you ace in the hole, Zack Wheeler, wheeling and dealing. He's my number 2, and the only reason he's not number 1 is because there's a guy named Gerrit Cole that's still in the league. But Zack Wheeler, without a doubt, is number 2 for me for postseason alone, guys.
Yeah, as I was talking about Zack Wheeler being in third, I kind of hated myself for putting tight pants, stupid hipster mustache, flannel shirt. Where's the next craft brewery? Spencer Strider. Let me get on my, what is it, the Lock 10 speed that the hipsters ride their bikes. Yeah, I have regrets. It's okay. Spencer Strider, 284 strikeouts last year. I understand, the Phillies get to him in the postseason, but I feel like this is the guy, this is going to be his 4th full season in Major League Baseball, basically, and he's already this good. The future's bright for this dipshit. I'm sorry, he's a Brave.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, I got to take my shots. He's a Brave, and I'm putting him ahead of a Philly. I don't like the way I feel inside right now, Tyler. But he's incredible. He is from a baseball standpoint. 20 wins last year. A sub 1.1 WHIP with that strikeout rate. He's really good. He's got to prove it in the postseason, which is why I have the Wheeler over him regrets. But the guy's pretty tremendous, and he's young, and we're going to have to deal with him for a long, long time here in Philadelphia.
So,
oh boy,
this was not the guy I initially thought I was going to put at number 2. And then I dove deep into the numbers, and you almost forget how good this guy actually is. And I'm going Corbin Burnes at number 2.
He's phenomenal.
He's only going into his year 29 season, and each of the last 2 or into the last 2
you mean
seasons.
His prime?
Yeah, basically. Over the last 2 seasons, he's made 65 starts. He's thrown almost 400 innings in those 2 seasons, a 3.16 ERA. Not too shabby, by the way. We talked about Strider strikeouts, 483. Corbin Burnes, 443 over 390 innings pitched.
225 last year or something?
Something ridiculous. His strikeouts per 9 is still over 10. The walks is down to 2.7. The whip is, Jamie, you talked about the whip. It was sub 1, each 3 of the last 4 years or 2 of the last 3 years?
2 of the last 4, yeah.
And in total over the last 2 seasons, it's 1.016, which if you're giving up 1 base runner per 1 inning pitched, that's elite numbers. This guy keeps the ball in the yard. He doesn't give up a ton of hits. He's only given up 285 hits and 395 innings pitched. And he doesn't walk a ton of guys. 117 walks over the course of nearly 400 innings is pretty darn good as well. That's less than 3 walks per 9 innings. Corbin Burnes' stuff is electric.
He's awesome.
But more importantly, this guy is just one of those dudes who knows how to pitch. Zack Wheeler knows how to pitch, right? I think Spencer Strider is finding out how to pitch.
Yeah.
And Corbin Burnes definitively knows how to pitch. This guy's elite, and I think he may be almost underrated despite the fact that he's elite. I'm going Corbin Burnes at number 2.
You throw a 2.12 ERA 1 year, and you still, I agree, kind of underrated. What a great move by the Orioles. Corbin Burnes is awesome.
Yeah, and with that, our number 1, we all have the same number 1. That is the one and only Gerrit Cole, who still is in his prime. And listen, age is nothing but a number. The last 5 out of 6 seasons, Cole had 200 or more strikeouts, including as high as 326 Ks in 2019. Of course, the 1 year he did not, 2020. Gerrit Cole is still the best in the game, still top pitcher, and honestly leads the league in a number of categories. ERA last year, finishing specifically last year with a 2.63 ERA, but overall top in WHIP at a 98.98 WHIP. Top in strikeouts, top in B-WAR, top in so many categories. The Yankees, of course, did not have a great season last year, but it still didn't take away from Cole's production. And unfortunately, the Yankees with a whole different look this year. It's scary times up in New York for what they're going to look like in 2024, especially because they still have Cole at the helm. Still that #1 top dog because of overall just the consistency, the production, the numbers, and the filthy stuff that he brings to the mound every time he's playing.
Yeah, and Christopher O'Donnell in the chat wants to know where Andrew Painter is on this list because he had a 0 ERA last year. I mean, it's a fair point. The guy
can't argue stats.
You can't do better than a 0 ERA. Yeah, Gerrit Cole last year, his WAR 7.4. For a starting pitcher to have that type of WAR is freakish. A sub-1 WHIP, 222 strikeouts, 210 innings pitched, a 2.6 ERA. I mean, what's there to say? This guy's the best pitcher in baseball. I hate that he's on the Yankees. Good morning, Anthony. Thanks for joining the show. Hit that thumbs up while you're in here.
What's up?
Yes, Gerrit Cole. I mean, there's nothing more to say. I'm sure Tyler will have a few more gems for you, but Gerrit Cole is very good at throwing baseballs.
Yeah, this guy stinks. He's overrated.
Yeah.
No, this guy is definitively the best pitcher in baseball. And guys, I'm not sure it's particularly close right now, as good as the rest of the list that we've put together is. Led the American League in ERA last year with a 2.6. Led the American League in 2019 with Houston with a 2.5. And guys, over the last 6 seasons, he's been under 3 4 times. Yeah. 2.8, 2.5, 2.8. A really bad year for Gerrit Cole last year or 2 years ago at 3.5. Oh no!
Wow.
And then he came back with a 2.63 ERA last season. This guy also, over the course of the last 9 seasons, from 2015 to 2013, has made 259 starts, and that includes the 12 in 2020 that Renee you were referring to. Which, by the way, if you average out a 60-game season, 12 is 1/5, which basically means Gerrit Cole made every start that he was supposed to. So 33 starts each of the last 2 years, 200 innings pitched each of the last 2 seasons. And guys, not too long ago in Houston, he struck out 326 hitters.
Insane.
And last year, 222. The year prior, 257. 2021, 243. This guy is so good, and he's not showing any signs of regression. And he's pitching at Yankee Stadium.